Right, the Weeknd tier ranking for all the albums. I can't believe I've not done this yet, to be honest. I've done songs, I've ranked the best song from each album, but never the albums. It's been 6 odd months since Dawn FM dropped, and the Weeknd is going on his huge stadium tour starting today. So the timing is perfect. You know how these things work. We're running it from God down to trash, lots of space in between for nuance. Trilogy is going to be split into the 3 records. Let's jump straight in. Up first, and we have House of Balloons, of course, the opening mixtape from Trilogy, an absolutely legendary record, and quite simply, one of the reasons I'm here talking to you today. When Rock Reacts ended, doing that channel with Simon, starting again on my own, covering the Weeknd's music, starting with this one, was the reason the channel started to go like that, and that is exactly why I'm here right now. But I've gone back and spent so many hours with this mixtape in particular, and I do think it is a pretty near flawless piece of work. I could probably go and pick holes in tiny bits there if I wanted to be like that, but I'm so fortunate that that first listen is on video, that I can also go back and watch it and remember those moments. But I've grown with these songs as well, and my favorite song changes all the time. The title track, House of Balloons, Glass Table Girls, I mean, that was one that won the no spoilers. If you want to watch the video, I've ruined it now, haven't I? But yeah, that's still one of my favorite songs ever. Wicked Game's one of my favorite songs ever. And if you were to ask me to do my top 10 albums of all time, before I started this journey on YouTube, obviously none of the Weeknd stuff would have been in there because I hadn't heard a full album at the time. Now, well, maybe we'll do that video, but it wouldn't surprise me if this one appeared in there. Listen, let's not hang about. It's going in God. It's going in God. You can't really fault it. I love it. It's a masterpiece. And there's a reason why so many of his fans, I've just seen a massive spider up in the corner of my room. It's just spider season at the moment. It is a massive reason why so many of his fans are just always begging for him to go back and make music like this, even though he's in a completely different place in his life, in his happiness, in his mental health, because it's so evocative. Incredible record, God tier, all day. Okay, moving on then. Thursday, I love this record, but nowhere near as much. Nowhere near as much. I have to be honest about that one. I know some of you guys actually rank this as your favorite of the 3. It is special, but I can't put it as high as the first record. In fact, there are actually other Weeknd records that speak to me more, and I've spent less time with this one than many of the others. It's Rolling Stone, phenomenal. Lonely Star, phenomenal. Life of the Party, incredible. Don't get me wrong, Birds Part 2 as well. I'm starting to question myself. This is like the other video that I did. But considering I've given myself a bit of wiggle room, I've given myself quite a few tiers here. What's it, 7 tiers? It's going in the B tier Thursday. And I'm sure that's going to create some controversy in the comments. By all means, get down there, give me some shit if you disagree. I'm sure you will. I just don't love it in the same way. But hey, B is a hell of a score. Hell of a score still. Echoes of Silence is magical. Echoes of Silence is incredible. Echoes of Silence perhaps even has more depth and longevity, than House of Balloons. It's definitely not as immediate, and I think you can see that on that first reaction of mine. If you do go back and watch those old videos, it's definitely not as immediate, but it has a longer tail. And I absolutely love every single time I go and re-explore this record. Admittedly, House of Balloons is still my go-to, but Echoes of Silence, dude. Montreal, are you kidding me? EXO, the host, are you kidding me? Initiation, are you kidding me? Fucking incredible record. The only thing I don't like about Echoes of Silence, I'm not a huge fan of the cover of Dirty Diana that starts things off. I know it makes sense with the timeline of the Weeknd and the Michael Jackson influence, but it's definitely not my favorite MJ track, not close. And even though it's a great version of a really good song, don't get me wrong, but when we're ranking Michael Jackson songs, hey, there's another tier list for another time. That'll be a long one. But when we're ranking Michael Jackson songs, it doesn't touch top 10 for me. So your cover of it can only be so good. And because of that, it doesn't quite make it into God. I think there are songs on here, moments on here that are better than moments on House of Balloons. But that, it just spoils it ever so slightly. So it's like if there was a tier, I can only do so many tiers. Tears in the Pain, we should call it. It's going into A. So there we go. Trilogy stacked on top of each other there as the first 3 in the tier list. Ooh, it's almost God tier. I know some of you guys are going to be like, they're all God tier, John. And I'm like, yeah, well, I get where you're coming from. But we're trying to get a little bit of nuance in here. That's why I've given myself the space. I'm not feeling massively good about that. But no, stand by my own argument. The reason I'm not feeling good about it is because whenever I listen to Echoes of Silence, I start at track 2. But that is not how the record starts. The record starts with DD, and I have to consider that when I'm putting it in my tier list. So that's where we go. Kissland. This record is fucking amazing. I didn't quite get it at first, and I think that's a common thread. And seemingly, when it came out, it didn't really connect in the way people wanted it to. But my goodness me, what an album Kissland is. Listen, I mentioned Tears in the Rain plenty of times already on this video. I mean, fucking hell, what a song. 7 minutes 24 of absolute bliss. Love in the Sky, Adaptation, The Town, Professional. I guess why people don't connect with this as much as some of the stuff on Trilogy. But I wasn't around. I mean, I wasn't really involved in that conversation when it was happening. I mean, I literally wasn't. I wasn't listening to The Weeknd's music back then. It's curious to me because there's so many threads in this record that remind me of moments on Trilogy. It doesn't feel so. I mean, I guess that we've become further removed since in The Weeknd's catalogue that now these seem closer. But it is strange to me. I think it's almost an immaculate record. I think it's a fucking incredible album. It's a tough one, man. It's a tough one on Kissland. I like some of these sort of more electronic influences that we've heard in later stuff in After Hours, and particularly Dawn FM. There are a couple of moments where I tune out a little bit, though. Like, as much as I like A Live For, as much as I like A Wanderlust, as much as I love An Odd Look, they're not quite at the same level. I want to reserve that God tier. For the true, like that has to be, that not much can get in there. Not much can get in God tier. And for that, Kissland's an A. I'm going to be a bit protective about the God tier on these tier lists. We're getting a tier list a week, by the way. New rules, unless I change my mind. New rules. But yeah, A. God tier has to be precious. God tier has to be very, very, very precious. There's part of me that just wants to put that in God tier and Echoes of Silence as well. But no, it's an A. It's an A record. I've given myself plenty of room. Look, we haven't even touched the bottom 4 here. A for Kissland. None of this is making me feel good. It's because I just love The Weeknd and I want to say all his music's amazing. But that's not there. There's no video there, is there? There's no video there. Beauty Behind the Madness. Do you know what? I've actually been listening to this recently after dismissing it, I think, a little bit. Because it just didn't have the same impact for me as Trilogy and as Kissland when I did the first reactions. But going back and listening to it, and it is just hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. Now, a lot of these songs have had way more mainstream play than, in fact, a lot of The Weeknd's music, Blinding Lights notwithstanding. And because of that, as much as I appreciate And Often, as much as I appreciate And Earned It, as much as I appreciate Can't Feel My Face, a different type of vibe on that one. They're definitely not my favourite tracks from The Weeknd. They're definitely not something that I would choose if I was going to do a top 10, top 15, top 20 Weeknd tracks, even though I do think they're really good. And it's something that gets played a lot and certainly did. This is when I started to hear The Weeknd for the first time. I think that's probably the case for a lot of people, especially over here in the UK. This is where he started to hit radio in the UK. The Hills is arguably his best song overall. An incredible track. But I like the record a lot, but it's not one that I go back to as much. Beauty Behind the Madness. I'm going to come back to it. It's my fucking game. I'm going to come back to Beauty Behind the Madness. I need to talk about some of these other records a little bit. Starboy is where I really started hearing The Weeknd before the videos. The Beauty before the videos. This is where he started to get mainstream radio play here in the UK. Starboy itself with Daft Punk, I Feel It Coming with Daft Punk, got major radio play. And I've talked about this so many times on video, but I just distinctly remember that moment. In fact, I remember hearing I Can't Feel My Face for the first time, thinking, is he talking about cocaine? Really sounds like he's talking about cocaine. And then whenever Starboy came out a few years later, I don't fucking know. And he's talking about cut the ivory into skinny pieces and she cleans it with her face. I was like, this guy is talking about doing cocaine on mainstream radio and nobody seems to have noticed. Apart from me, and I'm sure millions of fans. But at the time, I felt like I was just being let into a little secret here. And I was like, I like this guy. Long-standing Daft Punk fan anyway. So somebody starts working with Daft Punk, my ears are pricked. Straight away. And yeah, the first time I heard the song, I was just like, yeah, this is kind of working for me. And it went on and went on. It was one of those ones that gets played every single show on Radio 1. So if you're in the car, you're hearing it 4 or 5 times a day. If you're a busy day in the car, every time I heard it, it was just getting better and better and better. And this is the time as well, after I'd seen The Hills on Later with Jules Holland. If you've never seen that performance at The Hills, check it out on YouTube. It's on there. Later with Jules Holland, a show in the UK where he gets musical acts from all around the world. Some just breaking through, some massive, some like really obscure. They normally get 1 or 2 songs. Just a really fucking cool show. It's like a British institution. And the Weeknd's performance of The Hills on there, whoa, unbelievable. And that's when I was like, oh my God, this guy is so talented. Because often you hear a singer on the radio, but they can't really repeat it in real life. This was different. He sounded better. But at this point, I was appreciative of The Weeknd without having ever heard an album. Starboy I love. I Feel It Coming I like. Definite big Michael Jackson vibes. But going on and doing the rest of the record, there's a lot in here that I don't love. False Alarm has an amazing video, but I don't love the track. Stargirl Interlude is fantastic and blowing up again recently. TikTok's a mad one, right? You can just blow a song up out of nowhere and it'll disappear as quickly as it blew up. But there's not a lot here. There's a bit too much auto-tune throughout the record. I still think it's his weakest record. I do like a lot of it, like I said, but it's not one I return to very often. And one of my favorite tracks from it is one that isn't really spoken about a great deal in Sidewalks. Obviously, Kendrick killing his verse on that. But even Sidewalks with that amazing blues lick and obviously Kendrick's verse. Abel's just got too much auto-tune on his voice on that song. It would have sounded so much better if it was just his pure vocal. It's an odd one. So I'm just going to have to go C for Starboy. It's not going any lower than that. We've got 3 tiers lower than that, but it's not going any lower than that because there are too many moments on there and, too many classic joints. But yeah, it's not... Do you know what? It actually would sit in between the two if I did another tier, because to say it's one level below Thursday would be incorrect, man. I'm going back to Beauty Behind the Madness. Don't fucking kill me. Don't kill me in the comments. Don't kill me in the comments. That's what I'm sticking with for now. Fuck it. That's what I'm sticking with. That's why I felt it. It happened. Sometimes you just got to trust your feelings. My Dear Melancholy is a beautiful, short-lived moment from The Weeknd. Again, another moment in my personal journey with The Weeknd. The first Weeknd track that I reacted to back on Rock Reacts was Call Out My Name. The incredible video with the bats really blew me away in terms of his vocals again and had me reminiscing about hearing The Hills. Remember, this is just like an artist I'd heard here and there. I didn't know. No. It's obviously very short. I don't think it can sustain its quality all the way through. Having said that, there's not a great deal wrong with it either. It's a B project for me. Okay, After Hours and Dawn FM. After Hours is a special one. Definitely the first Weeknd project that I was able to listen to day and date with you guys. Do the reaction channel, or one of my biggest videos, unsurprisingly. And it's an album that I really, really hammered. And an album that kind of soundtracked the first part of the pandemic, which was a really fucking weird time for so many of us and continues to be even all this time later. 2 records since then from The Weeknd. How mad is that? So many of these songs, this is where he went crazy mainstream all of a sudden with Blinding Lights and the incredible success that was. And then Save Your Tears as well. And the remixes of everything and In Your Eyes. And all of these tracks on there, which I wasn't 100% sold on at first, just grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. And the tracks that I thought that I would love, like A Heartless, it kind of faded into, they're still good, but it didn't really live in the same way as some of these other tracks. After Hours is a fantastic project. It's the sound of an artist going mainstream. I guess Beauty Behind the Madness kind of is as well, but I feel like to me, this was Abel connecting more with the music than in Beauty Behind the Madness. That may be an unfair thing to say, but in Beauty Behind the Madness, I think he's executing really well on songs that don't necessarily truly speak of him as an artist. Not The Hills and some of those other tracks. That's my own perception of it. Whereas After Hours doesn't feel like that in the same way. There are some soft ballads on here, but they feel like where he was in that time, where the type of person he was, the type of artist he was becoming. It really makes sense. I think it's such a complete project as well. It's long, but it's so well thought out. It's well paced. It has some fucking standout moments, like the title track, which is incredible, like Faith, which is incredible, but so many other great moments, like Scared to Live, not a track that I would ever traditionally associate myself with in terms of my cup of tea musically, but it's fucking gorgeous. It's an A project. After Hours is an A project for me. And then, to wrap things up, Dawn FM. We've lived with this album for 6 months now, and it's a really, really strong record. But my feelings on it at the time, in my first reaction, and then especially when I did the reaction to the Dawn FM Experience, the Amazon Prime one, where he cut out a bunch of songs. That, to me, if you go and watch that, is the album. He cuts out the track with Tyler, the Creator, which I don't think is very good. Definitely one of Tyler's worst features in a long time. It cuts out the track with Lil Wayne. Again, I don't think Lil Wayne does a terrible job on the track, but it doesn't really suit, and it feels like a more concise, considered, and thematically consistent project because of it. That album is actually better. Even though it's got all the same songs here, and you can just kind of skip the tracks and make it that album, sometimes you have to judge things as a whole, and that Dawn FM Experience version, it's just so much better paced. Now, don't get me wrong. Gasoline, incredible. Love the British accent that he adopts. Reminds me of the music that I heard growing up in the house. I say growing up in the house when I was a little kid in the 80s. I'm that old. In my house, in England, obviously. How Do I Make You Love Me? Underrated as fuck. That's my favourite song on the record. Take My Breath is starting to gain a new life. Starting to hear it in TV shows, in adverts, in Love Island here in the UK. Massive show in the UK. It's taking its time. Sacrifice, phenomenal track. The way that How Do I Make You Love Me goes into Take My Breath. I remember by the end of Sacrifice, in my reaction, I was like, this is unbelievable. Out of Time, obviously, a sort of tonal shift for the record. It has that great video with a girl from Squid Game's name escapes me, apologies. And then we get into the title track, like Best Friends is okay. It picks up again with This Is Someone Else, with Starry Eyes, great remix by Mike Dean as well. It just came out. Every Angel is Terrifying. Sounded like it's going to be the best song in the world, and it's just an advert. And then, do you know what I mean? It's an up and down project, finishing with Less Than Zero. Jim Carrey's performance, superb, of course, all the way through. I love the project, I really do, but it's a B project. It's a B project for me. Time will tell if that changes, and we can always return to this in a year or so. But right now, if you haven't subscribed yet, we're actually trying to crash through 384,000. I think we can do that by the end of, maybe the end of this week if something big drops. Make it happen if you haven't subscribed yet. Bottom right. Join the team, join the movement. You don't want to miss these Tier Tuesdays that come out on Wednesdays because there's no rules. And let me know your thoughts down in the comments, all right? That's it. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.